Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of WPBS Live. We are delighted to have you on this evening in October. We've got some interesting people to talk to you tonight. I know you're going to enjoy this one. Have you ever walked down the street, a deserted street, perhaps alone, and had a feeling that somebody might be following you? You ever laid in bed on a dark night with only the wind to keep you company and thought you heard an unexplained noise in the house? Or finding a light on, knowing full well that just a few minutes before you'd turn that light off. Well, are they everyday occurrences or the work of some paranormal phenomena? Well, I for one don't know, but we have some guests tonight who think they do, and they're going to talk about a subject which I think you're going to find fascinating, particularly at this time as we approach the haunted Halloween season. And we're going to be talking about haunted northern New York. And we hope the introduction might have given you a little scare, maybe not too much, but we really wanted to get you into the spirit of our program tonight. That's a little funny and probably not very. But anyway, our guests tonight include a well-known local author, Cheri Revai Farnsworth, who has written several books on the subject of the unusual. And she's joined by some folks who set out to investigate and to attempt to prove the existence of these unexplained happenings. Phil Creighton, founder, administrator, executive lead researcher, and investigator of the Shadow Chasers of Northern New York. And Kate heuser, who is co-founder, administrative lead investigator, and research medium for the Shadow Chasers. And we're going to find out about all of these wonderful folks and have some fun with a program that I'm just sure you're going to enjoy. But we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. Instead of right into the interviews and taking your phone calls, which, by the way, I should remind you, is at 315-782-8600, if you care to call us. We're going to roll some video that was shot as part of our Folklore and Frost effort here at WPBS that is occurring. And as a matter of fact, I understand one of the larger excerpts of this broadcast will be held again tomorrow night. So we hope that you'll join us for that. But before we get to our interview, let's roll this video shot by the folks here at PBS, and it'll tell us a little bit about some of those haunted places here in northern New York. We'll get some reaction from the people who are there.
The John Hoover Inn has been at the crossroads in Evans Mills for nearly 2 centuries. Though it's had many owners over the years, all of them have had stories of unusual activities that have taken place at the inn.
Oh yeah, you heard a lot of stories from the locals, and of course when we came in, we had our own little things going on.
Once we figured out what was going on, we pretty much just said, okay, we know you're here, so if you want to play with us, go ahead and play, and we'll just play back. And we just left it at that. As far as seeing any spirits, any movement, I've never seen it. I don't know if you have or not.
Yes, I was bartending one evening, and the girls had a couple of purses on the back bar, and we were serving drinks, and all of a sudden the purse just moved from the back bar right out at us, and we were not standing there, so we kind of looked at each other like, what was that?
It was one Sunday afternoon. I was here to have a couple of drinks with my friends, and so down at the other end of the bar, right near that cooler, and I was looking into the cooler as I was drinking my beer, and I see this figure appear, and there's a female dressed in black. I started talking to it, and I tried to tell it, don't be afraid or anything. I'd like to try to help you out if I could. And as soon as I said that, it disappeared. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I said, that's that. And I got down the other end of the bar. That was the first time I ever seen something like that in my life.
Old historic places that have been populated, areas definitely seem to have a higher, rate of being haunted. In 2003, what was happening then is Stephanie Comini had been waxing the floor in the dance room, and she remembered what time she left that night because it was daylight savings time, so she had to set the clocks back. So she remembers leaving, I think it was around 2 or 3 in the morning, and there was no one else there with her at all, so she closed up, locked up the business. The next day, some of the tenants that were renting rooms upstairs asked her what time she left, because at 5:30 in the morning, they heard people partying down in the bar area, which was also where the dance area was, and they heard glasses, clanging, and the sound of business going on down there.
We've had a couple of experiences, I guess, through the years that we've owned it, but nothing that's been hostile. I mean, it's all friendly and it's all in fun, so we just kind of
just chalk it up and just
shrug it off.
Laugh.
Off an old country road sits the Burville Cider Mill. From its beginnings as a saw and grist mill over 200 years ago to its long history of its apple cider, the mill may be just as famous for the unexplained occurrences that have been witnessed inside.
The cider mill was built in 1801. Story has it was commissioned by the government to be built into a sawmill so that they could start forming a village right here. It's been talked about for years that there's been things that have gone on. I say I've seen them, heard them, smelled them, and felt them. I saw them from the knees down one time in the retail store when I was by myself. He has been seen by other people too, so I'm not crazy. I've heard them. Several people have heard them walking around upstairs. I've smelled them because somebody smokes a cigar and we smell the smoke. And I felt him. I was at the sink one day and something touched my waist as if to move me aside because they wanted to be at the sink. Thinking it was my husband, I moved, turned around, nobody was there. When we're pressing cider, we have a gentleman that we hire that stands at a table that is probably 3 to 4 foot long and only maybe 2 foot wide. He stands there and sorts the apples. The apples are on rollers. They roll past him, and anything that he wouldn't eat, he throws away. Now, anybody who's been here and seen the apples, they're not pretty like you buy at the grocery store. They might have a scar on them. And that might mean that that a branch grew up against the apple like this and just caused a little scar to be there. The guy that was working for us didn't believe in ghosts. He's sorting the apples. He happened to notice that some of the apples had the scars that were shaped like letters. On the same table, at the same time, he found these apples. One had a scar on it that was just a straight line, looked like the letter I. Another one had a scar that looked like the letter C. Another apple had a scar that looked like the letter U. And another apple had a scar that looked like a skull. The boy that was doing the sorting that day had a black sweatshirt on with a white skull shape on the front of the sweatshirt. So the apples were saying, I see you, and it was a skull shape. Any of the things that have happened are not scary. There's nothing to be afraid of when you come up here because they're not scary. It's almost an afterthought. When things happen, it's like, hey, I think that might have been a ghost. I think that might have been something that wasn't really supposed to happen. It's never scared any of us, and I think it's because I had said back on the first day, you don't have the right to scare us. You can be here, but you don't have the right to scare us. Even my little grandchildren, something happens, they'll say, Homer, hi, they just greet them. They're fine with it.
To find out if what people are experiencing is something out of the ordinary, paranormal investigators, such as Potsdam, New York's The Shadow Chasers, use technology and research to determine what is real and what is unreal.
We are paranormal investigators. We act as an environmental assessment firm, tracking down accounts of the unusual, paranormal, including ghosts and creatures. We're tracking stray electrostatic readings, stray electromagnetic readings, both AC and DC. And we also track down stray RF readings and background radiation. All of these compile to make basically environmental anomalies that could account for paranormal phenomena, and not in the sense that it's a ghost so much as the ghostly experiences are coming from encountering these high energy fields. It just so happens that a lot of these stray anomalies are also paranormal.
Surprisingly enough, there's a lot of times where we'll go to somebody's house and we can't find any evidence of it. We can see that they have bare wiring hanging down from the ceilings in the basement, but we can't see any evidence of a ghost. And then there are other houses where we'll